All right, I do apologize for not being able to start this from the very beginning. I should have started recording when I first started, but I was anxious to get into it. I put it off for so long. What I have is a 98 Chevy Blazer. It's a 304 6-cylinder Vortec. It's a 4x4, but the 4x4 had a vacuum leak or some problem. I had to take the big drive shaft that goes from the front to the back of the four-wheel drive. I had to take that out in order to get her working, because she was just grinding along. So, been using her in two-wheel drive. Love this car. We were in a drunk driving accident, and before that I hated this car. It was my wife's car. This thing saved our lives. And they totaled it. I bought it back for a couple $100, fixed it up, and rode it for years. Don't do this, I used water instead of antifreeze. And we had a very cold spell, and all that froze up. It froze up in the radiator, it froze up in the engine block, and it cracked, didn't crack the block, it blew a head gasket. What I ended up with is, to bring you around here, of course it's not turned down now, I ended up with a very smooth running car, but out the exhaust pipe down there, I was getting steam. It was white, and if you put your hand down there, it would be just like hot water, just like a coffee maker without the coffee. So unfortunately I realized I needed to replace the head gasket. I did all that. I tore the engine down. Everything's off the front. This was last year. Sorry, I'm rambling. I'm trying to get this from my own history as well. After I put it all back together, I turned the key. I started it up. It was running a little rough. I think maybe I needed to adjust the timing back there. Maybe I put the the distributor. I'm going to put the distributor in a little bit off, and just then it decided that it was going to pee all over the driveway, because there is, I'm going to come down here, I'm in the left side wheel well now, there are two freeze plugs. This one was initially bad. If you take out the wheel well, you can get to this one. This one, however, that one, its brother, however, is a royal pain in the butt. Oh my god. In order to get to this one, and this is the one that decided it was bad. Initially I replaced this one. Oh, and if you're looking, I got let me zoom out and slowly go over. I hate people that move cameras too fast. It makes me dizzy. Let me turn Huey down too here. Alright, at Advanced Auto Parts, for this particular model, I bought an extra one. Expand Tight. This is actually a freeze plug. It fits in just right, and then you tighten the screw and it makes the black rubber part puff up. And by puffing up, it fits. You put it in there real tight, so when you fit it in, it fits in real snug, and then you got to hold this metal disc ring, got to hold it in place while you take a wrench with a socket on there and just creak that thing couple times, and it'll get it in there, and then you won't have to hold this for the rest of it. Don't over tighten it. I know that's kind of hard to say. You did all this work and you're like, I'm gonna tighten the hell out of that summit, but don't over tighten it. It might break. Get it where it's real nice and snug. I'd even recommend, although I'm not smart enough to follow my own advice, you might even want to pour some antifreeze into the water pump area up. Let's see, where's the water pump? Nope. I'm looking at the screen, but the camera's over to the right more. There's a water pump. That's the hell is that? All right. Anyway, there's a water pump up there somewhere. There it is. There's an intake on the water pump. You might want to pour some in there and see if it leaks, because it's a good time to find out if it leaks now rather than after you get this thing put back together. Some things that I had to do. I could not find for the life of me anywhere on the internet that talked about replacing this freeze plug. There's one video where a guy boosted the oil pan up from the bottom, and I appreciate his video, but that was about the only thing I could find. So you're going to have to take, if you have to replace these two, you're in for a hell of a lot of work. It's not impossible, it's just a lot of tedious stuff. You're going to have to take your manifold, manifold exhaust, these things, you're going to have to take them off. I got one of these over here. And you have to forgive me, I'm really good about repairing stuff. I'm really horrible about names of stuff. This is one heavy mother. You got to take that off. And you got to take it off on this side as well. I'm on the passenger side now. I'll show you what it looks like under there, and I've got the engine really shoved under here. There is a second motor mount. That's how it looks. Well, there's motor mount stuff in the way. Right behind that is another, what do you call it? Freeze plug. Freeze plug, expansion plug. There's one that's so easy to get to. It's all out in the open as long as you've taken the wheel well out, and that takes a little bit of work, but again, just tedious stuff. Nothing you can't do. In order to get it to this point, I removed a bunch of the stuff on front. I removed the alternator mounting, power steering. I took the distributor post out to give it a little clearance so it didn't bump into these two things, which is just, I don't know what this is. This is just a thing sticking out of the dashboard, the firewall. These two are your heater core. What else did I want to mention? Yeah, this is what it's going to look like after you've removed the pin. There are two pins you're going to need to remove after you've gotten all the manifold exhaust stuff out. You can get to these much easier once the manifold exhaust is out. I think it might be impossible if you don't take the manifold exhaust out. You need to take these pins out right here. There's one here, and there's, excuse my huge finger, good lord. There's a pin here, and there's a pin on the other side. Once you get those pins out, now the engine is just sitting in there. It's not going to fall through, but it's sitting on the engine mounts. And you actually physically need to remove the engine mount to get to this freeze plug. So that's exactly what I've done. I've taken, here's the rubber part, and the rubber part goes in like that, or like that. Forgive me, there you go. That makes a lot more sense. Sorry, bad angle, I'm blocking it. So there's what your motor mount's going to look like. It's got the pin that goes through it. This piece just comes off. But you got to get this out of the way in order to get this off. It's kind of like a jigsaw puzzle. When you're done, this is going to mount back on. It's going to go underneath. You're going to bracket that up like that. Once this is in place, and it's got 3 bolts. You got one there, there's going to be one there, and a third over here. Once you've got this thing mounted up on there, you're going to take your rubber piece here, you're going to slide that on in, and once it's up to you. I'm still on the wall. I bought an extra freeze plug. If you've got one that's gone bad and rusted because you've had water in the engine, like I have, I had leaks, and I figured, why bother keep putting antifreeze in? It's just going to leak out. Let's just use water, and that came back to bite me in the ass. So I might go ahead and do the other side, and I'll film that, put it on a separate video, doing the take apart on that. Right now the engine is up, it's lifted and shoved all the way to the left. By the way, I was able to access everything that I needed to access with a jack underneath the car. Let me show you. I've got just one of those big rolling jacks, super duper jack. I've got a piece of wood underneath between the jack and the oil pan. I didn't want to send that little circle disc thing right through the oil pan, so I've got the wood there to kind of distribute. Let's see if I can get a better view. I've got the wood there to distribute that weight so that it doesn't crash into the oil pan. So that's that. I had to take the tire off, of course, and taking the tire off, you've got to support it. This is a chintzy jack. Oh my God, spend the money on a decent jack and get something so that you're not afraid that the rotor assembly and brakes and everything are going to fall down and kill you. So I only had this available, but I've got a second one in there just in case. So if this one slips, I hope to God that one catches it. Also got a cinder block as a backup. That's my hillbilly car jack. I was able to lift the engine enough to get to that motor mount, and